Hello, everyone. Welcome to Tech Time Live. I'm Jacob with the BEA Tech Services Department. We also have Mark Bouchard, and we have Rob Rivera moderating the chat today. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat box. Any comments or suggestions as well. Today's Tech Time Live is going to be about the LZR-WIDESCAN, our industrial door sensor. What we're doing for this one, this is part 2 of our 3-part series. The first one was installation and mounting it up to the wall. The second one today is about programming it via the LCD screen and via remote. And part 3, which is going to be in about 2 weeks, is about the Bluetooth app, which we have for the LZR-WIDESCAN. So without further ado, we're going to get started. Today, we're going to be showing you, first up, the programming on the screen and some of the options that you may come across. All right, I'll turn the camera around. Here we are. If you were here in the first Tech Time Live, this is our LZR-WIDESCAN motions presence safety sensor. And here's our screen. This is going to be a little bit different because the first one, we didn't go too much into the in-depth in the details. So what you see here is our LCD screen. Okay, back, and we have the 2 arrows. If I press this OK button, we're going to go to the main screen. What we have first is Quick Start. Quick Start holds some of your settings like the teach-in, the heater, and things of that kind of features. We're gonna go straight to teach-in. So teach-in, we're not going to do it again, but the sensor is already set up from the first time. You'll see something called install teach-in, and that basically is the sensor getting a little reference, remembering what's in the environment, and getting it ready to start detecting. We have some pre-settings. We're not going to go over that. We have service mode, factory reset, and what we're looking for is heating. So this heating feature is off, but if you have the WIDESCAN in a cold storage facility or something of that nature, you can set it to auto so that it won't freeze. We have the in-out menu. So the sensor, if we look at the side, we have all the wires. We have 3 outputs, output 1, output 2, and relay. Well, these wires are not just limited to motion or to presence or to safety. You can change these via the LCD screen. So output 1 function at default is set to safety, as you can see here. If I was to click on that, you can scroll through. So now you see presence, presence safe, motion pull cord, not used. So you can change each output on the sensor based on what you want it to do. So at default, we're going to keep it at safety. Output 2 function, presence. Relay function is default to motion pull cord. So I'm sure you see it on the other screen. You have a red LED, and we have a blue LED, which is your Bluetooth. We're not going to talk about that yet. And then if I was to move, you see the green LED right there. Green is your motion, red is your presence, and red blinking is your safety. So let's go to more. In the in-out menu, and I'm trying to get at the best angle, you don't have any glare. So you'll see output 1 logic, set to normally open. We have output 2 logic, set to normally open. Relay logic, active. So you can set these wires on the side, depending on what you set them for, motion, presence, safety, you can make them normally open or normally closed, depending on what your door control needs. So let's back out of the in-out menu and go straight to the fields. So what you'll see here, we have motion.
Don't get too close, it gets blurry.
Okay. Right about here, we have motion, presence, and safety. So any of the fields that you want to program, you can program right here. At first, we have field width. Obviously, that's the width of your field. It's in inches. At default right now, it's 114.1. So a little fun fact about the sensor is, let's say this is mounted 10 feet high. The ratio of max distance for the field is 1 to 1.2. So if it's a 10 feet high, times that by 1.2, you get 12 feet out, 12 feet wide. So from the center of that doorway, it would go 6 feet this way, 6 feet that way. So just whatever the height is times 1.2 is how wide and how long that your field's going to be. Go down, you see field stop. That's your depth. That's how far from the sensor, from the red LEDs on the ground, that your field stops. Object type, default to any. Click on that, you have the options of vehicle and vehicle depth. So obviously this sensor is a vehicle sensing sensor too. So you don't just have to detect anything. You can detect vehicles only, or forklifts. If we go to more, you'll see a setting called immunity. Immunity helps you against environmental disturbance. So if there's leaves, if you don't have your uncovered zone we're going to cover, and it sees grass or things on the ground, then you can set your immunity higher so it doesn't see it. Field start, we don't have to worry about that, but that's how far that the field starts from your red dots. And directionality. So right now it's set to uni, but you can set the sensor to any direction if you needed to. So you can go away from the sensor, towards the sensor, doesn't matter. So that's it for the motion. So as you saw, literally, if you were just going to install field width, set your field width, field stop, set your depth, and object type, and you're done. As long as you know that these 3 settings are on there, if you're programming by the LCD, that's it for the motion field. Presence. You're going to see some similarities and some differences. One similarity, field width. You have your field stop. You have your object type. But let's go to more. Immunity, field start. Now you have presence time. So to give an example, what that presence time is it's set to infinite. So let's say I had that ladder in the way of this door. That sensor is extra safety on your door. So your door has the photo eyes. It's going to keep it open if a car is parked in there. Well, now, if that ladder was in the doorway, that sensor is going to detect infinitely. It's never going to let that door drop until the ladder's out of the way. Well, what you can do is you can set it to 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, so on. So if I put a trash can right in front of that door, or if you're getting it's seeing something that you don't notice, you can have that sensor set for 30 seconds, and I'll show you how to do it here in a second. Set it for 30 seconds or a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and after 30 seconds or whatever you set it for, it learns that as part of the environment, and then it drops detection. So let's go over how to set that. So back at the sensor, let's go down to presence. There we go. Scroll down to more. And we will go to presence time. So it's at infinite right now. If I was to scroll through 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minute, 5 minute, 10 minute, and so on, make sure you confirm your settings always with an OK. So we'll go back. The last one we'll go over is safety. So it's the same thing. You have your field width, field stop, more, immunity, presence time. Well, now you have uncovered zone, which is default the 5.9 inches. What it does is when your sensor learns this field, it's going to go 5.9 inches off the ground, 5.9 inches off that wall. And whatever is in the environment, it's going to go 5.9 inches off of. So if there's grass and it's waving on the ground, it's going to be above that. Or if there's garbage going under it, it's not going to see it because of the uncovered zone. So let's just say we want to set it to 9.8. Now you'll see it says 9.8. Press OK to confirm. Back out. So now that you know how to set your fields, you'd set them back out of the sensor, and you could do a teach-in via the quick start menu. It's recommended to do a teach-in after you set up your sensor and do the settings, and then you're good to go. But this is just one way to program. Mark is going to do the other half. He has a BEA universal remote, which is used for just about all of our sensors, and he's going to show the correct settings, how to program exactly what I just told you via the LCD screen, and even more.
Obviously, one of the biggest advantages to programming the wide scan versus other sensors is that we can control the field nearly to the inch, whether that's width or depth. Programming from the sensor is really an easy way to do it. I like to program from the sensor, especially if I'm already up there. But I use the remote control a lot too. So I think on a general install, I would be likely to use the LCD in the sensor while I'm already there to set as many things as I could. But once I am down, I don't want to go back up to the sensor if I don't have to, and that's when you can use the remote. Everything, almost everything that you can change in the LCD is available with the remote control. I just want to show you the user guide real quick. So a couple things here in the user guide that you can change. One is the output function, like Jake was shown in the in and out menu. Another one is the logic and the relay hold times. I wanted to talk about this one first because whenever we make adjustments here with the remote control, there's some nuances or some things you may not know if you weren't told. So changing the output functions is always a 3-digit code. In this case, by default, it's 4, 3, 1. 4 is safety, 3 is presence here, and number 1 is the motion or pull cord. Whenever I unlock the sensor and press F1, you'll see like 3 X's show up on the display. And I don't know if you want to grab your camera, Jake. Let's show them that real quick. Yeah. So I'm going to unlock the sensor, and you can see on the LCD that it shows that it's unlocked. Now when I press F1, I get 3 pound signs or 3 pound symbols. You might want to pull back just a little bit. Mm-hmm. If I press 4, but then I'm like, I don't know where I want the second number to be. I'm looking at, oh, right, it was 3. But while I was waiting, the 4 went away and the 3 came back. So the point I'm trying to make here is whenever you make this adjustment with the remote control, you need to know what it is first, and then in about this fast, 4, 3, 3, 3. No, it didn't work. 4, 3, 1. About that fast. And when you're done, you'll see a green LED flash on the bottom. So I'll do that again, and this time try to catch the LED on the bottom, Jake. Mm-hmm. Unlock
on the other one.
F1, 4, 3, 1. And you see that little green light came on. That just lets you know, hey, those numbers make sense to me, and we're good. So lock gets rid of it. Unlocking the sensor or programming the sensor is the same as all BEA stuff. You unlock, and that's how you get into the programming session. And then you press one of the settings buttons, and then the number that corresponds, followed by a lock. You always hit the lock button 2 times. Changing the output functions and the logic and the hold time, these are all things that don't really apply to certain fields. But when we get into this a little bit farther, the motion field is controlled solely with the green button on the remote control. So if I want to adjust the field width, I can adjust motion, presence, or safety independently. And for years, everyone's always asked me, what do the colored buttons on the bottom of the wide remote do? And they never did anything up until now, but they are for specifically the fields of the wide scan now. So if you want to program motion, you would press unlock and then the green button, and the green light will light on the wide scan like it did before. I'm going to try from here. Unlock. See, now I'm in the motion field, and you can see the green light is on the sensor, letting me know that I'm only programming the motion field. From there, it's just a matter of choosing your setting. C is width, and you have to put it in 3 digits, just like the output configuration. You have to know what 3 digits you want and press them together. The sensor will round up or down to the nearest dimension. We can't quite set it to the inch. You program it to whatever dimension you want, and then it's going to pick the next size up or the next size down. And it's generally going to be within a few inches, plus or minus. The object type is a great way to filter out pedestrians. On the Falcon, this button is the one that looks like a shaky box. So I think that trips people up a lot of times because whenever we're getting the Falcon to ignore people, you have to set the detection filter, which is the shaky box button on the remote control, but not on the wide scan. It's the uh, ramp, and you set that to vehicle or vehicle XL. It works on object width, so it's different than a Falcon. It can still be tricked by people or groups of people, but it works okay. It works pretty good. The immunity is the ghost setting. Moving back down into presence and safety, it's the same way you program motion. You would just select the yellow button or the red button to let you know which field you're programming. I would also say teaching in the pull cord is very easy to do with a remote control. I would never recommend, unless there's no other way to do it, don't try to do your teaching or to learn a pull cord from the sensor. It works, but it just takes way too much time. The countdown timer when you launch any kind of teach-in from the sensor is 60 seconds. So if you're doing it at the LCD, you press OK on the learn or to teach in the pull cord, and then you get 60 seconds to get down off your ladder and move it out of the way, and then it will do its thing. If you do it from the remote control, it happens almost immediately. It's like a 5-second delay, and much better because you've already got everything down, everything's out of the way, no big deal. So doing your teach-in or teaching in a pull cord, definitely want to do it with the remote control or with the app. So now we're going to do a pull cord teach-in. We're going to do it once from the sensor and once with the remote control. You can do up to 3 different pull cords. All 3 of them will all do the same thing. So you can't make one pull cord control one relay and another one control something else. But you can have 3 separate spots. And one thing that's really cool about the pull cord is that you can change how long you have to be in that spot before detection happens on the pull cord. That's a great way to filter out unwanted detections.
So on the remote, first thing you always want to do is unlock, like he was showing, and you'll see the unlock symbol on the sign on the screen. Then you have the green button, you have the red, and you have the yellow. We also have the blue. So if you hit the blue, if you're watching the other camera, now you have a green flashing LED. If you hit the magic wand symbol that goes into the next step, you'll see it appear on the LCD screen, if you can even see it right now. So the next step you want to do is hit the number 1 for your first pull cord. And basically, you want to stand where you want that pull cord to start. So you'll see the LED is blinking. I'm standing as still as I can. You'll see a check mark. And then if you look at the screen, you're going to see a blinking green. So exactly where I'm standing right here, if I was to move, green blinking stops. If I go back in place and I have to go right exactly where it was, now the green blinking begins. And that's your pull cord. So you have to choose the spot in the field wherever it's going to activate from. And you can do about 3 of them. Magic wand 1, magic wand 2, magic wand 3. Simple as that. So does anyone have any questions for us? Anything with the programming? Anything else we can elaborate more on, or anything of the sort?
How do you erase a pull cord? So the way you erase a pull cord is the same way that you learn the pull cord, except don't go to the spot. So if we wanted to erase the pull cord we set right now, we would just do the same thing. Unlock, blue, magic wand, number 1, and then go stand over in the corner and make sure nothing comes into this area for a couple minutes. The sensor eventually will error. It'll time out because it says it didn't see anything. It'll briefly flash an error and then go back to normal. The whole process to delete a pull cord probably takes about 2 times as long as it does to actually set one. But don't worry, it's not going to take hours and hours. It's just going to be a couple extra minutes. but it's a little weird because you have to wait, and anytime anything moves through the pattern, the clock kind of resets. In fact, just before we started, we were sort of practicing how to delete a pull cord, and even just us standing around like we are now was enough to make it not start.
Also, one question is, or point is, the pull cord can be adjusted, right, by the amount of time that you stand in it. If you have a 0 adjustment, you walk into that spot and it immediately triggers, correct?
Yeah. So on a 0 setting, just simply passing through the spot is all it would take to trigger it. You can also set it so that coming to a stop on the spot is what will trigger it. So we can do timing. You can do 1 to 8 seconds, or you can do 0 seconds, which is pass through, or that last feature that they call stop on spot. And the sensor knows if you come to a complete stop on the pull cord spot, that's the trigger. Rob and I use this at Nestle in California as a traffic flow device, basically a traffic control device. Somebody had to be on the pull cord for 3 seconds before the door would open. And once it was open, it didn't matter, traffic could go in and out, but they controlled access because they had to come to a complete stop on that spot, and then the door would open, then they could continue.
And I've had a few calls where people have asked, can you have this trigger at a very precise point? I think that having it adjusted to 0 and doing a pull cord, you can also choose it to be a person or a vehicle, so larger or smaller, and put it to 0, and simply hitting that point will allow it to be a very precise point of access where it opens the door for you.
Yeah, hands down, the best part of this sensor is the versatility and adjustability. You could never get as accurate with your pattern size with a Falcon or an IS-40. You just don't know where your pattern truly starts or ends sometimes. But I could paint a line on the ground with the wide scan and activate in the same spot every time.
We actually do have a couple more questions that are in, last minute questions.
Encore.
Yeah, encore. How immune is the sensor to excessive building vibration?
It's really good. So Falcon or an IS-40 vibration wise, bad. But the wide scan, it's not as susceptible because of the laser technology. Vibration doesn't bother as much. You have to, I think the shock is like 2G to knock the mirror off balance. You'd have to you have to shake the hell out of it to get it to mess up, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you everyone for watching. This was programming with the LCD screen and the remote for the wide scan. Like I said, in about 2 weeks, we're going to have another Tech Time Live. This is specifically for the Bluetooth app. So this is going to be a pretty important one as well, because this is our brand new app. And you can do all the stuff that we're doing now on the app. So make sure to check that out. We have a lot more trainings on the website, webinars and Tech Time Lives. And if you have any more recommendations for us, let us know. But thanks for watching, and see you next time.